It's Tuesday, May 18. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The World Health Organization, WHO, says COVAX, the facility created for speedy and equal distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, is 140 million doses short because of India's continuing COVID crisis. Vaccine manufacturers are being urged to fast-track the delivery of supplies to the COVAX facility. WHO Director Dr. Pbcj made the call during a media briefing on Monday. Jamaica has received 2 tranches of vaccines through the COVAX facility so far. However, the island is just one of more than 100 countries that signed on to benefit from the facility. The WHO boss, Dr. Pbcj, wants manufacturers to deliver more, to follow the footsteps of AstraZeneca, one of his largest suppliers so far.
While we appreciate the work of AstraZeneca, who have been steadily increasing the speed and volume of their deliveries, we need other manufacturers to follow suit. Pfizer has committed to providing 40 million doses of vaccines with COVAX this year, but the majority of this would be in the second half of 2021.
But Dr. Pbcj says vaccine doses are needed right now. He's calling on manufacturers to deliver the doses earlier.
COVAX partners are in discussion with Johnson & Johnson to receive doses in the second half of 2021. But this has not been finalized, and we do not know when they will arrive. Moderna has signed a deal for 500 million doses with COVAX, but the majority has been promised only for 2022. We need Moderna to bring hundreds of millions of this forward into 2021 due to the acute moment of this pandemic.
The WHO boss explains that the Serum Institute of India, the largest single supplier to the COVAX scheme, has been severely affected due to the surge in COVID-19 cases in India.
Once the devastating outbreak in India recedes, we also need the Serum Institute of India to get back on track and catch up on its delivery commitments to COVAX. Furthermore, we need high-income countries that have contracted much of the immediate global supply of vaccines to share them now. So
far, the call has been answered by the United States of America. According to the Associated Press, President Joe Biden says the United States will share an additional 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines with the world in the coming 6 weeks as domestic demand for shots decline. We now get the latest COVID-19 clinical summary.
In the clinical management summary for Monday, May 17, 2021, 83 new cases and 15 deaths were reported. The COVID-19 related deaths were reported between January 19 to May 16, 2021, and some were previously under investigation. The new COVID-19 cases pushes the island's overall case count to 47,479, of which 22,837 are active. The parish of St. James had the highest positives over the last 24 hours with 15, while St. Anne had 13 and St. Catherine had 12. 129 recoveries were also reported, bringing that tally to 23,410. At this time, there are 145 persons in hospital, with 62 patients moderately ill and 18 said to be critical. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries is moving to implement a satellite-based vessel monitoring system this year as part of safety mechanisms for fishers while at sea. Portfolio Minister Floyd Green says the pilot will be conducted with the island's network of conch fishers. He gave some details while making his contribution to the 2021-2022 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives last week.
The number of us who have fishing constituencies know people who have been lost at sea. I know a number, Madam Speaker, across my constituents, and it is very difficult for their families. And as such, we have to take greater steps to protect them while they're at sea. That is why we will institute a modern, improved, satellite-based vessel monitoring system, which is going to be piloted this year by our conch fishers. In fact, Madam Speaker, by 2023, the ministry will be adding a marine VHF radio communication system, which will further serve to enhance the safety of our fishers at sea. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that when our fishers are at sea, they will be able to communicate to us and tell us about their distress situations, and our JDF and our other first responders can track their location and can go to them to provide assistance.
He's also urging fishers to take advantage of the Guardian Life Fisheries and Agriculture Multi-Advantage Plan.
We have to send a clear signal that farming and fishing are valid and valued professions. That is why we engage the private sector on behalf of our farmers and fishers, and out of it, the health and life insurance policies for our farmers and fishers have been born. The Sagicor Agri-Care Plan and the Guardian Life Fisheries Agricultural Multi-Advantage Insurance Scheme mean that now our farmers and fishers can get health and life insurance, a first in Jamaica's history.
He says discussions are underway for the provision of fishing vessel insurance and crop insurance. Work is being done to bring together a team of psychiatrists to ensure that inmates with mental illness receive proper care. Minister without portfolio in the Security Ministry, Senator Matthew Samuda, made the point in the Senate on Friday, where he provided an update on plans to correct the deficiencies identified in an audit. The audit was commissioned following last year's death of 81-year-old mentally ill inmate Noel Chambers while in state care. Noel Chambers had been incarcerated at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center since February 1980 and deemed unfit to plead, but was convicted of murder. He died in state care in 2020. Following his death, photos emerged on social media showing Mr. Chambers' emaciated body. The case was brought to the media's attention by the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, which said the death of Chambers had opened up a wider probe into conditions and procedures at the island's prisons. The audit was completed in January 2021. The key findings submitted to the Cabinet.
Consultations have been had and systems put in place in a bid to improve accountability in the nation's correctional facilities and reduce the opportunity for another unacceptable case similar to Noel Chambers.
Senator Samuda says deficiencies were identified in human resources, particularly medical.
A review was done on an organizational chart prepared by the medical unit to provide a strategic roadmap to address the staffing issue. This was submitted for approval to the Ministry of Finance and Public Service. The MOFPS has approved this as at December 1, 2020, and we are working to provide the upgrade in the Specialized and Medical Services Division. DCS is working on this area with special emphasis on engaging a senior psychiatrist. Colleagues should note that this is not necessarily an easy position to have filled, but it is now on our establishment and we're seeking to have that happen. A specialized project is also being undertaken, Mr. President, in the interim, given the urgency of the situation. The MNS has sought assistance from our development partners to fund this specialized project. It is intended that a cadre of psychiatrists will be led by a notable psychiatrist who I will announce certainly in my State of the Nation, to provide for the requisite assessments and to ensure that we're up to date with our reporting requirements and indeed to provide some remedial care.
He notes that the roadmap was submitted and approved by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service in December 2020. Senator Samuda says steps are also being taken to provide for renovations to existing facilities to address overcrowding.
To treat with the overcrowding issue, the MNS and DCS are currently seeking to provide for renovations within existing facilities, despite the lack of capital budget. The budget that exists, and we'll go into it at another time, does allow for some of these renovations.
The Missionaries of the Poor has also been brought in to help.
In recognition of the fiscal constraints and the need to urgently address the issue, the MNS has led discussions with notable NGO mission reserve of the poor. And we are looking at a project which should be near to completion soon to relocate our bedridden inmates in a manner that would allow them to receive the sort of care that they deserve.
Senator Samuda says the move will not solve all the infrastructural problems within correctional facilities. That, he says, would take billions of dollars and years to complete. The self-proclaimed king of Dancehall, Beenie Man, whose given name is Moses Davis, was fined $150,000 on Monday for breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act. He was fined in St. Elizabeth Parish Court after pleading guilty on April 19. An additional charge of breaching the Noise Abatement Act was thrown out during the DJ's last court appearance. The DJ was slapped with 2 charges in connection with an event in Shrewsbury District, St. Elizabeth, on November 29. Global oil prices rose on Tuesday. We get the details in this business report with Gabriel Thompson.
In Monday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 2,225 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 97 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 46 declined, and 12 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 15 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Variable Preference, Barita Investments Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with over 7 million units, followed by Jamaican Teas Limited with 2.7 million units and Mailpack Group Limited with 2.4 million units. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, May 17, the US dollar sold for an average $150.67. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $124.66. The pound sterling traded for $211.20, and the euro sold for an average $183.93. Oil rose on Tuesday to hit $70 a barrel for the first time since March, as expectations of demand recovery following reopenings of the European and U.S. economies offset concern over spreading coronavirus cases in Asia. Brent crude futures rose 55 cents at $70.01 a barrel, trading above $70 for the first time since March 15. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 37 cents at $66.64 a barrel. And on that note, we close this Tuesday edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabriel Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
In news across the region, the Office of the Prime Minister in St. Lucia has sought to clear the air on a recent private airline travel manifest purporting to be that of Prime Minister Alan Chastanet. Senior aides claim reports of a trip on a private jet are false. We get more in this HTS News Force report.
Senior officials in the UWP administration claim that an alleged private aircraft travel manifest regarding Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, which has been making the rounds on social media, is bogus.
Yet another fake document in circulation, which some are using to push a political narrative.
The government leader reportedly left the island on May 5, 2021, bound for Miami, Florida, for talks with cruise line executives. The Office of the Prime Minister has categorically dismissed the document, denying that Prime Minister Alan Chastanet was a passenger on a private jet.
The Prime Minister used American Airlines, as I said, commercial flights, and at no time during the trip did the Prime Minister fly on a private aircraft. Since his arrival back home, Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chastanet has been in quarantine.
MacDonald advises that the public be more discerning and rely on what she says are trusted sources for information.
One of the things we've been trying to do, Solaj, is to make sure that when these things come out, we dispel them right away. That has been something that we were not inclined to do because we felt that, people could have been more discerning. However, it's coming really fast and furious in terms of the fake information, and you can see that there is a certain desperation with spreading rumors and spreading gossip, so it's important that we as the Office of the Prime Minister and the government respond right away to those issues and let the public know that these matters are fake, false, or under some kind of scrutiny or investigation. So we will definitely be on the ball in terms of responding to those things because we know that it is going to get worse and the public deserves to hear the truth.
The senior communications officer warned the public to be ever mindful of what she says is false information circulated with malicious intent. Solaj Alfred, HTS News Force.
Consumption of alcohol in a public place, outdoor sports, or exercise in public spaces are prohibited during the current state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. This after the emergency powers regulations were published on a Sunday evening. Sunil Lala of TTT News reports.
Contravenes the emergency powers regulations commits an offence and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $250,000 and to imprisonment for 6 months. The regulations dated May 16, 2021 does not have an end date and states that it shall have effect during the period of public emergency. Several activities are prohibited, including gatherings of 5, being at any workplace unless specified under exemptions, public parties or fetes, and operating a bar or restaurants. Also prohibited is the consumption of alcohol in a public place, as well as participating in outdoor sports or exercise in public places. Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi explains why outdoor exercise is not being allowed.
Because we're dealing with a culture, our culture, that is hard to manage in the ingenious ways in which people seek to find exceptions to themselves. Unfortunately, in this circumstance, running, walking, hiking, exercising, all had to be managed with one blanket approval.
The regulations also has provisions for the SCA exams, stating that the minister may permit educational establishments to be open for the purpose of conducting any exam. Religious institutions are prohibited from conducting in-person activities except for funerals and weddings, which are limited to 10 persons but can conduct service via live streaming or recording. The regulations state no person shall be outside of their private dwelling, including a motor vehicle, ship or vessel, during 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. without the authorization of the police commissioner. It adds that where a police officer considers that a number of people gathered together are in contravention of the regulations, the officer may, in addition to his powers of arrest, charge or disperse the gathering and may use reasonable force if needed.
The regulations do permit the Trinidad and Tobago Police and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, within the parameters of law, to engage in causing compliance in any place. That is both in public and in private.
The document also lists what sectors will be allowed to operate during the state of emergency, among them a wide range of essential services. Sonolala, TTT News.
Still in Trinidad and Tobago, according to Minister of Health Terence Dale Singh, Sinopharm vaccines from China are expected to arrive in the country on Tuesday. The health minister gave an update during the ministry's virtual media conference on Monday. Mahalia Joseph Wharton has more.
Minister of Health Terence Dale Singh said this country is due to receive a donation of 100,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccines from the Chinese government on Tuesday. But many have questioned why vaccines aren't being offered with the current stock. The minister assured that the vaccine program has not stopped.
We have vaccinated 60,000 persons with their first dose of AstraZeneca vaccine. The reason why we stopped is that we are holding back another 60,000 so those persons can get their second dose, so they could be fully immunized.
The minister also sought to clear misconceptions that there are private sector companies having talks with the vaccine manufacturers.
No vaccine manufacturer anywhere in the world at this point in time is talking to, negotiating with any private sector organization in Trinidad and Tobago, and I dare say in CARICOM and possibly the rest of the world.
He reiterated that government signed a non-disclosure agreement with the Chinese vaccine manufacturer Sinopharm on March the 15th.
Some persons take this non-disclosure agreement and use it selectively to say why only Sinopharm. We also signed a non-disclosure agreement with Pfizer, but they would not tell you that, and I have said so publicly. A non-disclosure agreement is not because the government has something to hide. It is the precursor to heads of agreement and then a sales contract.
The minister said the government is working towards getting a commercial sales agreement with Pfizer to acquire doses of its COVID-19 vaccines for the population. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
In sports, we begin with athletics. Petersfield High School's Antonio Watson has apologized after he made a gun gesture to his opponent at the end of the Class 1 200 meters finals at the ISSA Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Championships at the National Stadium on Saturday. The Inter-Secondary School Sports Association, ISSA, has accepted the apology. In a release on Monday, they said, quote, "Champs have always been a time to showcase and celebrate talent. While we encourage the colorful behavior of victory celebrations and acknowledge the value and excitement it brings to the championships, it should always be within the code of conduct that guides how we act on and off the field and track." End quote. In other sporting news, the Jamaican Olympic Association, the JOA, has embarked on a drive to unearth local diving talents. This is in keeping with their mandate to discover, nurture and enhance local talents. Last Saturday, the JOA made a stop in Port Royal where they presented gears to a hopeful crop of young divers. We get more from Melvin Pennant.
Swimming comes natural to children growing up in the Port Royal fishing village. The typical career choice is to go into fishing, but for these youngsters, they are looking at other options. They reached out to the Jamaica Olympic Association, and the association responded.
We're so very happy that you have reached out, and I think we are in a very good position. The reality is, you know why water sports doesn't do very well in Jamaica? You seem as if we're afraid of water. Most Jamaicans can't swim. When they go to the beach, the water doesn't pass the waist. You have overcome that fear. This is your playground, the water. So we're already talking about persons who have the talent, the interest, and the drive. And I look forward to helping you to hone that skill and also to develop yourself, not only as athletes, but as individuals.
JOA President Christopher Samuda was on hand, and he was impressed with what he saw.
I'm pleased with the interest that the gentlemen have displayed. They are prepared to go the long haul in order to realize their objectives and dreams. So what we're going to be doing from now is to organize them in a structure, a club structure, and that we're going to bring in the expertise now to train them, to develop them in a proper way so that they can become competitive divers. It has been exceptional this morning. They have pledged that they are prepared to go with the Olympic Association and to ensure that they realize their dreams. This is something that we are really big on. Giving people an opportunity to realize their dream, giving an opportunity to self-actualize, giving them an opportunity to transition to the international stage where they can be proud of themselves and, of course, don the Jamaican colors with pride as well.
Mr. Samuda addressed the idea of international class training facilities for young athletes.
Well, clearly we're going to have to look for a training ground where there is a diving platform. This is something that we're going to have to arrange, and of course, clearly, we have to look to the National Stadium for that facility. But what we need in this country is to build that infrastructure. We need far more facilities where our sportsmen and sportswomen can train and train properly and train at facilities that have international standard. So we have to look for a training ground, a diving platform, so that they can now be properly trained. That is something that will have to preoccupy us for the next 6 or 7 months. But in the interim, what we are going to be doing is now bringing in the coaches so that they can learn to swim properly, they can learn the various forms of swimming, they can learn the technique of diving, and we can also give them a history of the sport for an appreciation that when they do become champions. They will understand what are the characteristics, what is the metal that constitutes that character, and then they will be able to, of course, impart to their own generation the successes that they have, and so enthuse them to follow likewise.
Thaddeus Brown was one of the young swimmers deemed very interested in the program.
We look forward to a better chance to help to friend them and things, and help others and become better swimmer for Jamaica.
Aliyah Atkinson and Yona Knight Wisdom are some of the Jamaicans that have represented the island at the highest level in water sports. In years to come, we may be adding some of these hopeful youngsters to that roster. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
And with that, we bring to an end today's news. On behalf of our entire hard-working production crew, thanks as always for making it PBCJ, the People's Station.